Greetings. Thanks for stopping by. I'm Skol, and this is my Jack Wolf Knives Gateway Barlow collection. And I'm going to do two things in this video. First, I'll do a tabletop review and show you what I got here. And then I'll also tell you, part two, the funny story how I ended up with 6 of these, which turned out to be like a little bit of an odyssey, and laugh at myself about the way I went about it. Funny story. So I will get into that as part two, but for part one will be a tabletop of the Gateway Barlow. So first we'll do a size comparison. Here's another Jack Wolf, and this one's from their premium line. So the Gateway series, so it's called the Gateway Barlow, and here on the artwork you can see the gate is open to get into Jack Wolf. So with their budget line, the Gateway series is meant to open up the brand so that everybody can get into Jack Wolf. So these are in the $70 price range. I and many other YouTubers use $75 as a cutoff. If knives are under $75, that's called the budget category of knives. So most of these were in $70 or in the making it into the budget category. So if you're on a budget, you can still get a Jack Wolf, and these are very high value, and I will explain all that. One thing about this open gate and that werewolf castle, I like to imagine that the owner, Ben Belkin, and he works with Donnie, that's the two main guys over at Jack Wolf, that they work in a werewolf castle like that. That's fun to imagine. I know it's not that's not where they work, but maybe if the company gets bigger in the future, they can get a bigger headquarters and make it look like a werewolf castle. That's a fun idea. But anyway, Jack Wolf is a fun brand, and here's one of their premium models. So you have the Gateway budget model, they have a mid-tier model, and then they have their premium line that comes with extra bells and whistles and higher and premium materials. So you got high-end super steel S90V, you got titanium bolster liners. Titanium's a premium material, and it's got a DLC diamond-like coating on the bolster, which is interesting for something extra, and carbon fiber. So there's one of the premium. This one's called the Big Bro model, and it's also a Barlow. You can see the size and shape is pretty similar to the Gateway, and this is actually my favorite knife in my Jack Wolf collection, the Big Bro. But same size comparisons, pretty close. And then here's some other size comparisons. Here's a Baron Son made in the USA, walnut. I could do without that shield. I don't think that looks very good, but walnut looks nice. Here's what it would look like without a shield, so I like the other side better actually. Or if they did a different shield, I just don't particularly like that shield. And then here's another made in the USA by Case, so everybody knows Case. And this one's got jig buffalo, which is pretty special material. And I do have some more Barlows actually, including one I'll do a little teaser. I've got a really extra special one that'll be coming out soon, so you won't have to wait that long. And I'm not going to show or tell you what it is because it'll be a big surprise. But come back later and you can check out that cool one. And also I'm going to do a very special patriotic George Washington's Barlow folklore story. So that'll be coming up before the 4th of July. And since it's currently May 2026, it'll be coming out soon before the 4th of July. And the American folklore, back in the Revolutionary days, it's the 250th anniversary of America from the signing of the Declaration of Independence, which was America's birthday. Way back then, 250 years ago, Barlow was the America's most common pocket knife. And so way back to the beginning, America's first favorite pocket knife was a Barlow. And if you think about all the soldiers in the Revolution would have been carrying Barlows, or most of them, or a lot of them. And even George Washington carried Barlows, and all the pioneers in early America. So the Barlow is part of American history, actually, all the way back to the beginning. So there's some size comparisons. You can even see on this case knife. I mentioned these were made in the USA. Jack Wolf also has a made in the USA line called the Vampire Hunter. They were able to source and collaborate with LT Wright in Ohio And I got one of those. So I just mentioned some videos coming up, but I also have a vampire hunter now made in the USA. And I'll be doing a video on that one soon as well when I get a chance. And I need to pick up the pace on how I do these videos because I keep getting new stuff in all the time, and I have such a big amount of content I haven't even gotten yet. I've literally got years of content here, but I need to kind of produce them. But I'm under no obligations. We're doing this just for fun, so I hope you're having fun too. But here's the case knife. You can see it's the smallest here, but even the smallest one still got your full 4-finger grip. I wear large size gloves, but I'm still getting a full handle on the case knife. It also has a little bit thinner stock. I always prefer thicker stock, but this was a special jig bone. Plus I like having it as part of my collection, even if it's just for size comparisons with other Barlow knives, so that's useful. So this is year of the Barlow for me, and I've been going Barlow crazy. So now let's finish the tabletop review. I'm using the purple one as an example. Let's look at some details here. We got a clip point with a nice wedge. We got a nail nick. So this is the second time they released the Gateway Barlow. The first release, they all had long poles, and then these all have nail nicks. So you can tell it's a version 2 by having a nail nick. And if they do a version 3, because they've sold so fast, that it's probable they might do a version 3. Nail nick, and then let's catch the edge bevel in the light. You can see it's got a nice edge. And then you got a sharpening choil. Then down here on the ricasso, a nice crisp laser etch Jack Wolf, and 14C28N, high in toughness, high in corrosion resistance. Steel, good choice for this. And then you got your stainless steel 3 flutes bolster. You got a Federal shield. And by the way, that bolster, stainless steel, is integral with the liner. You can see it better on this side. The liner and the bolster are one piece. And then while we're here, let's get the light down in the channel. Jack Wolf does it the old school way. They don't use a stop pin on the close. So that's neat, doing it old school. These are also pinned construction. Usually the whole premise of Jack Wolf as a company from the beginning was to take traditional pocket knives and reinterpret them into modern materials like G10. This is G10. But on this Gateway series, they did go with pin construction. And some of these models, like the yellow jig bone and the wood, and then the version I didn't get was a red smooth bone. That red smooth bone. So this is a legitimate traditional pocket knife with the pin construction and the natural old school materials. So not only do they do the modern interpretations, they have a few that are legitimate old school traditional pocket knives as well. So let's look at the fit and finish. You notice in the corner there where the cover fits in 90 degrees, perfect. Good termination. Around the back, everything is smooth and flush. You can't even see the lines between the liner and the back spring. It's all completely flush and smooth. Looks real nice. And here's the other side. Right in the corner is perfect fit and finish. And let's do the walk and talk. So that's a 6. Snap. 6. And then I can pinch this open. I don't even need to use the nail nick, which is nice. So you just grab it here at the high point and you can just pinch it open. That's a 6 and 6. 6 out of 10 for the pull strength rating. I'll let you hear the walk and talk. It's got a half stop. So good walk and talk, very good. 6 out of 10 pull strength. Very nice, they're all the same. Let's do all the stats real fast. So let's get our length. We got a 3-inch blade. We got a 2 3/4 inch cutting edge. Overall length, almost 7 inches. It might be 1/16 short of that. So almost exactly 7 inches. And I showed you that case knife was smaller. I was getting 4 fingers, so this is bigger. You can see there's even space left over, so you can move your hand around. I wear large size gloves and easily plenty of room on the handle. Having a good ergonomic handle is the foundation of any good knife, and this has it. It's got the chamfered rounded edge corners. You can probably catch that in the light and see how it's rounded off on the corners with the chamfering, which makes it comfortable. I'm not detecting any blockiness. It fills up your hand. Very nice. Here's the back side. So modern material on this one. Let's introduce the rest of the materials. So we got Miami carbon fiber, and this has layers. And then there's a little blue and pink layer for a little color pop that pops out. Carbon fiber, modern material, very tough. Probably out of all these, the carbon fibers, maybe the top most tough material. And then here we got the, it's called the goddess pattern. And you catch it in the light, it looks very interesting. And then while I'm talking about the goddess, I'll show you something interesting about that. I was looking at pictures of space, and when I saw that goddess pattern, it reminded me of the planet Venus. And it's funny because it's called the goddess, and then Venus is the Roman name for Aphrodite, the goddess of love. So color match, you can see the dark browns and the light browns, and then this swirl in the atmosphere kind of matches. I'm seeing color matches and swirls that are matching the atmosphere and appearance of Venus. So I gave this knife a nickname, Venus, but most people are calling it the goddess version, but I'm calling it Venus as a little nickname because it's so close to Venus. And Venus is an interesting planet, very harsh. That's 96% carbon dioxide and hot. The entire planet surface 400 degrees. So if you could imagine being in the oven like a roast turkey, that's how the entire planet is. And also the air pressure, 10 times as much air above you, air pressure. So if you were on Venus, you would be instantly crushed with 10 times the air pressure and also the heat. You die in less than 1 second. So that is the planet Venus. And this is my Venus Gateway Barlow. Yellow jig bone here, ebony, wood, and abalone. So let's do the weights. Since we got different handle materials, we'll get a little bit of variation on the weights. And let's do a tare. We're getting 3.24 ounces on the G10 and 3.05 on the carbon fiber ounces. Just under 3 ounces, so that's 3 ounces. What I usually use as the cutoff. If it's under 3 ounces, I say it's lightweight, but all these are pretty close to that 3 ounce. So that one just does qualify as lightweight. This one, the bone version, is 3.18 ounces. All these are at very light in the pocket weights. The wood version is also under 3 ounces, so that's lightweight. And the abalone is coming in at 3.04 ounces. And then we'll do the stock thickness last. So I mentioned the case knife was a little bit thinner stock thickness. For pocket knives, I always like when stock thickness is near 0.12 inches is the usual for EDC pocket knife. But slip joints tend to be smaller, and on a shorter blade, I'm okay with, it's actually pretty common to go down to 0.10 for a stock thickness on your blade. These are listed at 0.105, and that's what I'm getting here on my reading. 0.105 exactly for stock thickness, and that is good and acceptable for a slip joint under 3 inches. And one thing about when you do have a thinner blade. If you go higher in toughness, that's a good idea. So something that's 0.10 but has a 9 out of 10 on the toughness rating is actually probably tougher than something that's 0.12 thickness, but you can get some types of steel that are low in toughness but higher in other categories. But 14C28N is a very good choice, and that they could still get it in the budget range is very nice. Budget prices. So highly recommended. Very, very nice aesthetics, very nice handle materials, and that's kind of the whole reason for the second part of the story, is because the handle material selection was so different, so good, so amazing handle choices on this release. So let's transition into part 2 of the video. Is my little funny story about how things went haywire, and this was a different situation I wasn't used to, never encountered before. So when you have a knife release normally, and they might have a couple of varieties of handles, you'll pick the one. If you decide you want to get that knife, and as a knife collector, you can probably relate to several of the things I went through. You'll pick the one that you like, or if you can afford it, maybe even get 2 versions. So like the same week that these were coming out, within 7 days, I think it was, same week, Rosecraft was coming out with this Snake Creek Copperhead Warncliffe. This was Warncliffe is my favorite, so this was a high priority, and I like both versions of it, so I got both. So it's pretty normal to pick a version you like, and sometimes maybe even get both. And these are, Rosecraft is the value king, high quality traditional pocket knives, high quality materials, high quality construction. And this is also 14C28N for $62 in the budget range. As far as overall value, they're not the cheapest, but when you take in all the factors and balance it out, high quality, high materials, and for a low price, best value. So that's Rosecraft. But here with the Gateway budget line on Jack Wolf, it's actually very competitive with Rosecraft as far as $62 compared to $70, but you're getting the same high quality materials, same high quality construction, even the same blade steel at a very similar price. So pretty close, pretty competitive. So good high value on the Gateway series. And we're talking about how it went down. Why is it a funny story? So the release for Jack Wolf is usually on a Friday at 2:00 p.m. Eastern time, which is New York City time. And some versions will sell out fast, but everybody kind of knew that these Gateways were going to be pretty hot. So my plan going into the release day, I was going along with my normal thinking of picking out 1 or 2 favorites, but I kind of liked all of them, and it was really hard to choose. But what I ended up choosing as my plan was to get the Miami carbon fiber and the abalone. That was the plan. But at the very last minute, I made an audible call. So like in American football, you can have a play ready to go. You're up to the line, but then the quarterback might call an audible. He sees something and makes a decision and changes the play at the very last second. And that's what I did. I made an audible call at the very last second, and I switched out the hometown colors, purple, and I love purple. I decided to get the purple, and then I didn't get the abalone, so this is what I picked. And now, just 5 minutes into the release, sold so fast, the abalone was gone, and 5 minutes into the release, I could have got all these at TPK except for the show special, but this is what I ended up getting. And 5 minutes in the release, this was already sold out, and in fact, all of them were sold out in the first hour, and all the other dealers were selling out fast. But I sort of right away started having regret at not getting the abalone, especially when I saw it sell out so fast. It was the first one to sell out. And so I felt like I made a bad decision at the last minute to not get the abalone, but it was too late. So, you have buyer's regret. Sometimes you buy something and then you get it and then you say, man, maybe I shouldn't have got that. That's buyer's remorse. So this is the opposite of that, where I could have got something, but I passed, but then I regretted not getting it when I had the chance. So that made me kind of sad, even though it's very nice to get two very nice pocket knives. I kind of had that sadness that I didn't get the abalone. So then the story gets even more complicated and sort of funny the way I went about this, when I could have just got them all up front. If I would have done it right up front, I should have known or figured out it was a new situation, that I wasn't going to be satisfied with just two on these. But maybe I overdid it, but we'll see how we settled up here. You can see it's a happy ending. I got one in the end. So the next thing that happened was right after the release, things were sold out and I started seeing more pictures. People were kind of going wild about this goddess version. So when I saw pictures and people were going wild about it, I started having regret about not getting that one as well. So I already had regret about passing on that one, and I had regret on that. I was like, I should have got that one too. So that's what I was thinking. But then the opportunity struck. I don't know what happened, but 2 days after the release, all of a sudden, Blade headquarters had the yellow, they had the purple, and they had the goddess still in stock. So I jumped on it right away, and they did sell out not too fast after that, but I struck the opportunity to get a goddess, and now I had 3 of the versions. And then I also decided to get custom slips over at the Jack Wolf Knives website with the logo. So I went primo on the pocket slips, and then I also made my own lanyard. So I bought some paracord and some barrel spacers, and I tied that myself and melted the end. So that kind of makes it fun when you tie it yourself. Make it special. So with my purple one, I got a special slip. I actually got slips for all these, and I ended up going primo for all of them. So the reason it's so funny, the way I went about this, is I ordered some slips, and then it seemed like every week I had a new one coming in, a new knife coming in, then I had more slips coming in, and that just went on for like 5 or 6 weeks. So it turned into an odyssey when I could have just got what I wanted right up front on the first day to be satisfied. Anyway, what happened next was I'm in a Facebook group called Jack Wolf Knives Worldwide. You can find it on Facebook. It's a private group. Just apply and get in. All the Jack Wolf fans are there. You also get daily interaction. Ben and Donnie, they post in there all the time, and you get all sorts of good things there. You get funny memes. You get people do some really nice photography. I'll show you a nice picture I did. So I got so many of these Barlows plus my other Jack Wolfs, I was able to spell out Jack Wolf. Isn't that interesting? And take some interesting photos so you can see stuff like that, interesting, how other people do really good photography, or it's always just fun to see people's daily pocket check videos. You get funny memes. They also have a buy, sell, trade mechanism there if you're into that, and you also get insider info is the other thing. So if you're into Jack Wolf, you should go find that group. But with the insider info, one of the guys said, hey, there's a dealer that still has purple and yellow jigged, and he had just ordered some. So because I saw his post and that they were still in stock, I went ahead and got the yellow jig bone. So now I had 4, which means that I needed to get another slip now. Then more insider info at the Facebook page. Ben said that the special show version, the ebony wood, hadn't sold out at the show, so they were going to make the rest of the stock was going to be coming available. So I was able to get the ebony wood show version, even though I didn't go to the show. So Ben goes to all the big shows. He even goes to one in Europe. And I can't believe this wouldn't sell out for $70. Such a great Barlow knife. It wasn't the big Atlanta blade shows. I guess all the other ones are kind of smaller compared to that one. But for some reason, they still had some stock left, and I was able to get the special show version. So now I had 5, and then the last thing that happened, and it's literally over a month since the release, and you would think that all the dealers were sold out, and they pretty much were. But then one of the guys in the group said he found a dealer that had all of them in stock, and he wasn't even on the dealer's list. So it almost sounded like a scam. Like, who is this guy? But Ben and Donnie, they verified, nope, he's a real dealer, and we're working with him, and he's going to be on the dealer's list soon, so it actually is legitimate. So I went ahead and ordered, after a month after they'd sold out on an obscure dealer, I ended up being able to get the abalone, which I should have just got right up front when I made my first initial order. So that's the funny story, and then I needed more slips. Finally settled, and I'll show you all my slips here. So starting with the abalone, I got this, there's some green in there, multicolored, sort of matches up colors, and I ended up getting a slip for each one. And then I got the ebony wood show version, which actually turned out to be my favorite out of all these. It just seems right to get it in wood, and kind of thinking about how it was America's first pocket knife, and most of those would have been wood. Got a black slip there, and then the yellow one, this lighter color tan, kind of matched up with that. And then I got a brown one, because there's a lot of brown in this Venus version, Goddess Venus. And purple, I told you that I hand tied the knot myself, so love purple. That's a good package. And I also got a fancy lanyard for this one, and since there's some blue layers coming out in the carbon fiber, I went with blue, so I can tell which knife is in which slip, and I have a pretty good selection here for carry. So that's my Jack Wolf. I'm not sure I mentioned that when I first got into Jack Wolf was late last year, and so I had missed the very first version of the Gateway release. I wasn't into Jack Wolf yet, so late 2025 is when I got into Jack Wolf and started buying some Jack Wolfs and collecting. And then I was looking back at what other past versions of Jack Wolf that I missed out on that I wish I could have gotten. And I remember talking to Austin Jackson at traditionalpocketknives.com, and I remember mentioning that the Vampire was a good one, but out of all of them, I was saying, oh, that Gateway Barlow was really nice. I wish I could have got that one. And it was only a few weeks after that, it just happened to be, and good timing, Jack Wolf, their next release is the version 2 release of the Gateway Barlow. So lucky me, good timing. That's the one that I wanted most from the past, and all of a sudden it was happening right then. So, and then I ended up getting 6 of them, and it's, like I said, so many good choices. It would be hard to down select, like which one of these would I be willing to give up to have a smaller amount, and it's actually hard to pick any. These are all really nice to have. I almost could get even a full rainbow of colors and variety, especially at the budget price. So really good Gateway line. I'm sure they'll keep the Gateway line going. Everybody loves it, and they sell out hot. Anyway, so we did a tabletop review. I told my story. So that's just about it. And I mentioned several other videos coming up soon. So subscribe, come back later and find those other videos. And thanks for stopping by. I hope you enjoyed the video. You have a nice day. I am Skol, and remember, always carry a knife.